What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday, July 19th, around 6:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Time for the Trade Crack and Market Analysis video. So we have had an interesting couple of days here. So on Friday, after the bell, we saw this Turkish coup attempt happen, which sent the market downward and shot gold upward briefly. Then over the weekend, we saw that get resolved in some light. Looks like it's still going on, and there's still a bit of cleanup and really questions about what really happened, how much of it was. Do we know what really happened compared with the current president and so forth of Turkey? So that's still, but the fighting is for the most part appears to be wrapped up for now. So we opened on Monday basically around the same levels, and the last 2 days, yesterday and today, were a really tight range and not a whole lot of volume. So it'll be interesting where we go from here on the S&P 500. I've been talking a lot in my videos of a top being put in place. I still believe that's true, and that we're kind of rounding out a top here, and that at some point we take a dive back down to the 210 area, possibly the 208, 27, 25 area, although we would need some kind of catalyst to get us down to those levels. But some kind of risk aversion move. But I think what's interesting is we haven't seen that yet, but we see an exhaustion of the buyers. We don't really see a whole lot of buying coming into the market, and not a whole lot of volume in general. It'll be interesting to see. One event that we do have this week is the ECB central rate decision. So that is Thursday, and it'll be interesting to see if that moves the market at all, how dovish the Mario Draghi is. But that actually leads us into our conversation about gold. So gold has been also experiencing kind of a tight range. The 126, 127 area is being defended, and even though we do have a little bit lower volume, it'll be interesting to see if the ECB rate decision and the rhetoric afterwards will cause a break in gold upwards. Now, if I'm looking at this from a purely technical perspective, this does look like this could be an upward bear flag, so we could possibly going to another leg down here. That's not my view on gold. Has been and remains bullish from a fundamental perspective, and I think we can go much higher from here. So that's not necessarily what I'm looking to, but it does cause me, I'm not going to deny what I see, and so I am cautious, and I'd like to see this get resolved to the upside. If it doesn't, it's possible that we could be in for another move downward from. So this move was down went down about $4, so we could travel another 4 from the top of the flag if that is indeed a bear flag. Like I said, I think I'm bullish. I continue to be. I think the fundamentals and negative interest rates provide a very bullish environment for gold, and it's hard to see gold moving anywhere but upwards, short of some kind of major risk aversion. And I think even like the financial crisis, where all assets were being sold, including commodities, I'm not sure that a similar crisis would be as bearish on commodities at this juncture, because commodities have been beaten down so much and currencies have been devalued, and it looks like will continue to be devalued. So I'm not sure even in that type of risk aversion, a sell-off in gold would just be temporary. Also, that being said, from a technical perspective, you want to see this break higher on a breakout bar on some volume before you can be too confident. I think any move to the downside is to the 50-day could be bought as the end of a wave, a downward wave, and you would wait for a little bit of upside, and that would confirm a higher a push upward. So that's where we are with gold. Obviously, with currencies, and if you're playing forex and the Euro USD cross, pound USD cross, the dollar broke out today and rose above this wedge pattern that it's been in, this flat top wedge pattern here, broke above it. I think the dollar continues higher I think no matter what, I think we know the narrative of what Draghi says. I don't think that there's a whole lot of surprises going to be had, and any surprise would possibly be details on how dovish they're willing to be. So I think any surprise is probably to the upside at this point, which is why the dollar's breaking out ahead of the meeting. But I think we see weakness from the European currencies going forward, and I think the dollar looks to be the strongest major currency that there is right now. And if we do get a risk aversion move, a move to the downside, I think that continues. I think the dollar continues. But looking at some of the other markets right now, XLF flagging here at the top at some recent highs here, got some resistance area. These three, will be the third top here, so it'll be interesting to see where we move from there. And looking at Delta and some of the transportation, we've got again some entering these resistance areas, and we're getting some interesting looks here. It looks like we possibly could be in the process of being rejected. So that's where I'm looking for on the major indexes. I'm looking for a pullback across the board, and I think possibly we saw a breakdown in IWM, the Russell, today, so we'll have to watch for follow through on that, on this bar here. But the Russell could be leading the way here as far as where we go downward. It'll be interesting to see in the midst of earnings season if we continue what earnings say and what they tell us about where the market is headed. But there's a lot of information to digest. So in the midst of that, trading is individual names is going to be sparse if you want to wait for earnings, which is what I recommend, and I've talked about in my previous videos how you shouldn't make plays in earnings season through earnings unless you have a specific earnings play in mind. Technical analysis isn't necessarily going to predict future movement or going to predict the earnings results and the reaction thereof. So be safe, be careful there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens this week, what happens with the ECB rate decision, and if anything out of that will unleash the next move, whether that be up or down. My tendency and what I'm looking for is a downward move, but either whether we see a release out of this tight range that we've been in the last, say, 4 days. So with all that being said, God bless, good luck, great trading. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at Trade Kraken on StockTwits and Twitter, Trade Kraken at YouTube. Subscribe, follow, tweet, comment, like. All right, thanks a lot.